You know, I'm not grabbing a pitchfork. I'm not grabbing a gun. I'm not throwing her in the gulag. I'm not confiscating.
I'm so glad he clarified that. I'm not going to throw her into a gulag.
I'm a good person, yes, it's true. I'm a good person, better than you.
Business Insider tweeted something that caught my eye. Now, the full video is about 6 minutes or so. I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but just know the rest of it goes into the egregious wealth that Kylie Jenner has and that the Kardashian family has.
So egregious wealth. What does Kyle mean by egregious wealth? Is he talking about the means in which they've acquired their wealth? Which, from what appears to be mostly honest free trading? Or is he talking about the amount they have? Is it the amount of wealth they have? Is that what's egregious? And if so, at what point does wealth become egregious? At what dollar amount does having wealth become egregious?
This is a little snippet. It's honestly one of the most powerful arguments against our economic system that I've ever seen, and it's not even true.
So the fact that Kylie Jenner and the Kardashians, the fact that they have a lot of money and decide to spend it, as you'll see, they spend it on a lot of nice toys and big houses. That fact alone is apparently an argument against our current economic system, which, again, a reminder, our economic system is a mixed economy with elements of capitalism and socialism and fascism. But clearly, the picture that Kyle Kalinske is trying to paint is this notion that we have unfettered, unregulated capitalism, and this is what you get. You get Kylie Jenners of the world accumulating egregious amounts of wealth, and oh no, the horror.
Trying to be that. Watch.
Around 155 million combined followers on Instagram and Twitter. Her huge social media following also brings in a hefty income for Kylie through sponsored posts. The estimated value of a single post is $1 million. She's posted ads for Quay sunglasses, Teamy Blends Detox Tea, Sugar Bear Hair Vitamins, and more.
Oh no, you guys. Kylie Jenner gets paid by companies to endorse products. So what's the issue here? Kylie Jenner has, I think, 130 million followers on Instagram alone. They just had 155 million, I think, combined Twitter and Instagram. But on Instagram, she has 130 million followers, many of whom I assume are teenage or young adults. And I presume her most passionate followers, the people who admire her the most, are teenagers and young adults. So Kylie Jenner has a desirable demographic. And 130 million followers on Instagram. So they just mentioned Quay sunglasses. So if just 1% of Kylie Jenner's followers became customers of Quay sunglasses because she posted on Instagram, if just 1% of her followers went out and bought a pair of sunglasses as a result, that's millions of dollars worth of revenue. Shit, even if it's just 0.5%, that's like what? On Instagram, that's like what, 600, 700,000? And I assume Quay sunglasses are well more than $10. But let's say they're just $10 a pop. And say 0.5% of her followers go out and buy a pair of sunglasses after she wears them in a picture. That's what, $7 million? If they're just $10 a pop, that's $7 million worth of product, and they're giving Kylie Jenner a fraction of that amount. What's the big deal here?
Kylie's social media is also where we can see how she spends her millions. In 2016, she purchased a 1.4-acre Hidden Hills compound, which includes a 1,300 square foot mansion, for $12 million. Over the last 2 years, Kylie has bought at least 5 other properties totaling more than $40 million. With all those properties, she definitely has the space to store all of her luxury cars.
oh no, Kylie Jenner makes lots of money and decides to spend it on nice things like mansions and luxury cars like Lamborghinis. And what is that, a Hummer? Good for Kylie, and God bless America.
Since receiving a $225,000 black Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon for her 16th birthday, Kylie has amassed a pretty impressive luxury car collection. She's recently reported to have paid an estimated $10,000 to wrap her G-Wagon to match her $400,000 Lamborghini Aventador.
When she does a promoted post on social media, it's $1 million. She makes $1 million off of one tweet promoting one product.
Yeah, again, 130 million followers on Instagram. That audience is the size of the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl, I think, usually, depending on the year, 150, 160 million viewers. Kylie Jenner has that on Instagram alone. So yeah, it really should not be that surprising that she gets paid $1 million to endorse products on one post.
So she bought a $12 million house that is literally 12 tweets or Instagram posts or Facebook,
Oh, no.
whatever. There are two things that are inescapable conclusions based on this story. Number one, you got to tax the rich. You got to tax them. Now, am I in favor?
So, you got to tax the rich. That's the first conclusion that Kyle comes to after looking at a video of Kylie Jenner. The title of this video, by the way, is Kylie Jenner's Mega Wealth Will Radicalize You. Will radicalize you. So just looking at Kylie Jenner and seeing that she makes millions of dollars by posting on Instagram and spends that millions of dollars on mansions and luxury cars, that alone will turn you into a radical. What kind of radical? Is he talking about communism? Does he mean just looking at Kylie Jenner and all of her wealth, that's gonna make you want a dictatorship of the proletariat? Is that what he's saying? What kind of radical is he talking about?
You know, that's a really good question.
Is Kyle himself now a radical? I kind of wish he would finally come out as a radical so he can cut this bullshit about how I'm just a social democrat that wants whatever the fuck Denmark has. So anyway, someone sent me this video saying that what Kyle says is pretty revealing, and I concur 100%. This is revealing. This is not that we needed any more evidence, but this is proof that the Bernie Sanders revolution and all these Bernie bros like Kyle are motivated by envy. Now, they package their motives by compassion for the poor and the lower class and compassion for those who are in need. And as you'll see, he'll pivot to that. But they are clearly motivated by envy, because Kyle doesn't start the video about some sob story about a family getting evicted from their home or someone going bankrupt over a hospital bill or people struggling to get by. So he does not start with the premise of, hey, look at these people, they're struggling to get by and they really need some help, so why don't we raise taxes a little bit, collect some revenue so that we can provide these people aid. Now, he would still be wrong. Don't get me wrong on that. He would still be wrong to come to that conclusion, but at least you could maybe buy into this notion that he's motivated by compassion. But no, he starts out by looking at Kylie Jenner and seeing how amazing her life is, and his first thought is, we need to take some of that away. We need to raise taxes on the rich, as if taxes are not high enough. You know, what I think the top tax bracket, people who make over $500,000 a year in the United States, federally they pay 37% in income taxes as of 2019. And Kylie Jenner, she lives in, I believe, Calabasas, Los Angeles County, California, some of the highest taxes in America. People who make over $500,000 a year in California, they pay, I think, 13% in income taxes. So in state and income and federal taxes for Kylie Jenner, She's paying a marginal tax rate of 50%. Right there. So, is that not high enough? 50%? If you make millions of dollars, 50%, that's not high enough, according to Kyle. Or he is ignorant on the current tax rates in America.
Favor of taxing them so much that they're no longer rich? No, I'm fine with people being rich. I'm fine with Kylie Jenner being rich. I mean,
so he's fine with people being rich. He just wants to raise their taxes. Keep this in mind.
she got very lucky in the family she was born into, and a lot of it was kind of handed to her.
And she has multiple siblings who were in a similar position, and she's outperforming all of them. She's 22, and she's the only Kardashian / Jenner to take her advantages and become a self-made billionaire.
She did create her own makeup line, and she did do, I'm not taking away that from her. I'm not trying to, force her to make nothing. But you got to raise taxes. And you have to believe, to one extent or another, in redistribution. Everybody does, but it's just to...
Well, I don't believe in forced redistribution. Now, notice that he's appealing to the majority here, saying, well, everyone believes in redistribution on some level. That doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it good. And Kyle's always appealing to the masses, with all of his talks about populism and always citing polls. Well, the majority of Americans agree with me on Medicare for all and all this other crap. Why doesn't he apply this standard to religion? Kyle Kalinske, he calls his show Secular Talk. He's an atheist. Now, if I were to say, well, the majority of Americans believe in some God, the majority of Americans ascribe to a form of religion, the majority of people throughout the world believe in God and ascribe to some form of religion, does that mean religion is legitimate? Does that mean religion is good? Does that mean God is real?
Absolutely fucking not.
But hey, when it comes to a political opinion that Kyle has, if the majority agree with him, then they all must be right.
Differing degrees. I mean, if you look at this and you don't see a problem that this exists alongside 78% of workers in this country living paycheck to paycheck, half of workers in this country making $30,000 a year or less, about 500,000 homeless people, about 50 or 60,000 homeless veterans, 500,000 people going bankrupt because they can't afford their medical bills. If you don't see the connection there, if you don't see that there's a problem that those exist simultaneously, then I don't know what to tell you.
So his issue is the fact that rich people exist in the same society as poor people. Now, he just said he has no problem with people like Kylie Jenner being rich, but now he's saying the problem is the fact that they coincide with poor people. Well, if that's the standard, then why should people be allowed to be rich in the first place? If it's so egregious and gross that they exist in a society where poor people exist, why should Kylie Jenner be allowed to be rich at all? Well, why start at Kylie Jenner, someone who has millions of dollars, worth $1 billion, has multiple mansions and all these nice toys like Lamborghinis and shit? Why start there? Why not start with someone who owns more than one home? Why not start with a family who eventually saves enough money to buy a vacation home on a beach to go and visit a few times a year? After all, who needs more than one house when we have so many homeless people in America? Why should people be allowed to own multiple homes and multiple properties when so many people are in need of housing? How dare you? Why should people be allowed to drive nice cars like BMWs and Audis and nice convertibles? People don't really need nice cars. They can get from point A to point B on a $15,000 Ford Focus or whatever. And they could give that extra money that they would have spent on the $60,000 convertible on the Corvette. They could give those thousands of dollars to a local charity like a children's hospital or a soup kitchen to help out those who are in need. So if the issue is rich people existing in a world with poor people, then why should people be allowed to be rich in the first place? This is clearly a guy that does not check his premises very often.
There is a problem with it, and you do need to do redistribution. You do need to tax the rich higher, and you do need to reinvest that into programs for the people.
But first, we just got to take their money. That's the most important thing. We'll figure out what to do afterward, but can't allow people to be too rich. Not in America. Not in the land where you're supposed to be free to pursue your own happiness. Apparently, we need to put a limit on the happiness because people need stuff.
There's infrastructure projects, a job project, giving everybody health care, giving everybody higher education.
And this is totally envy. I did a whole video about this a few months ago where I brought up the fact that a lot of these new socialists make a big fuss about whether or not billionaires should exist. A lot of these people are saying that billionaires are a policy failure. And even Bernie Sanders recently said that billionaires should not exist, which if you have that premise, you're only a hop, skip, and a jump away from an authoritarian like Mao Zedong calling for the slaughter of landlords, which happened in China during the 40s and 50s. And I know this sounds hyperbolic, but when you have shitty premises like that, you're going to eventually get shitty conclusions, like the landlord genocide.
It's hurt poor people that they can afford housing in Berkeley. I don't know how that works.
My understanding is that the property owners who have properties there choose just not to rent it at all.
Yeah, kill them. Kill those motherfuckers in a video game. Sorry. Holy shit. Murder those motherfuckers in the street. Let the streets soak in their fucking red capitalist bloods, dude. Let the streets
Soak in their fucking red capitalist bloods, dude.
Oh my god, in a video game, of course.
That's not an improvement.
But I'm curious, for people like Kyle and his fans, let me ask you this. Let me offer you this hypothetical. In America where poverty as we know it is completely eradicated, all 300 million Americans have their basic needs met, everyone has a well-paying job, people even have leisure time and vacation time, everyone's happy, everyone has more than enough food, everyone has internet access, everyone has access to clean running water, everyone has access to electricity, everyone has 1 to 3 cars or whatever. I'm giving you that world. Poverty as we know it is gone. But here's the trade-off. 1, the millionaire and billionaire population will more than double. We're going to have more millionaires and more billionaires. And secondly, the wealth inequality, the gap between the poorest of the poor and the richest of the rich. Shit, we might even have a few trillionaires in this hypothetical America. But the wealth inequality, the gap between the rich and the poor, that's going to widen even more. But the standard of living for the poorest of the poor, that's going to go through the roof. Would you accept that deal? I'm a bit skeptical given your guys' obsession over
wealth inequality. Woo!
But yeah, so billionaires should not exist. And when the first sight of Kylie Jenner making money, your first thought is, hey, we need to take some of that away. Yeah, don't tell me that your goofy movement is based on compassion.
I mean, you got to tax them. It's the most straightforward solution. I mean, you could radically change the economic system and totally move away from what we have now, but...
Now, I agree, but for a different reason. I say we should move to a completely laissez-faire capitalist economic system and stop with this bullshit mixed economy.
You know, I don't know. I can't conceive of exactly how that would come about and what that would look like in the process to get there. What I can conceive of is raising their taxes.
Look how excited he is to raise taxes. He seems a lot more eager and excited about raising taxes and taking money away from the Kardashians and the Jenners and the Walton family and the Super Koch brothers. Seems to have a much bigger boner for that than he does helping out those in need.
Their taxes and redistributing in a reasonable way. So that's the first point. Second point is...
there's no such thing as a reasonable redistribution.
Don't tell me that meritocracy is real. Don't tell me. Now, if you're
Meritocracy is not real. Okay.
creating a system from scratch, do I agree with having some level of meritocracy in the system? Yes. I like the idea of
Oh, just some level? Well, then you don't really care much about meritocracy, do you? You just want some level.
incentivizing people to be productive. And I think everybody to some extent agrees with that, okay? But we don't have a system that's a meritocracy. She's not.
To a certain extent, he's right. Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of businesses get subsidies. They get money that is unearned through wealth redistribution schemes that Kyle loves.
Working harder than, a lot of the people a lot of people I know. I've told the story before on air, but one of the hardest working guys I ever knew in high school worked 3 jobs and was barely getting by. So one of the hardest working guys I've ever known. 3 jobs, barely getting by. We don't even have the minimum wage in this country is.
So his implication here is that Kylie Jenner doesn't really work that hard for her money. Now, I don't blame him for making a fuss about this because conservatives, the pretenders of capitalism, as I like to call them, this is what they obsess about. Like, oh, if you work hard, you'll make a lot of money. It's all about creating value. So Kylie Jenner, when she posts a picture of herself wearing Quay sunglasses on Instagram, sure, the work she's doing is not as backbreaking or exhausting as, say, paving a road or constructing a skyscraper or digging a trench or working in a factory, but it's the value she's creating. She is delivering a value by delivering millions of paying customers to a corporation that wants to move their product. So yes, I would say that in Kylie Jenner's case, merit is achieved.
Not even a living wage. That exists at the same time that Kylie Jenner makes $1 million per promoted tweet.
See, there it is. Kylie Jenner, she delivered the value, and that's what matters. Yeah, again, she's probably not going to have back problems from posting these tweets and getting paid millions of dollars, but she is creating a value, and that's what matters.
I rest my case.
You didn't rest shit.
We got to have a living wage.
So he just talked about meritocracy, yet he wants to make it illegal for people to compete on the labor market by offering their labor and services at a price lower than the arbitrary minimum wage. So if he wants to set the minimum wage at $15 an hour, which he talks about a lot, if someone wants to compete for a job by offering their services at $12 an hour, Kyle says, no, that's illegal. No, I've already decided that you're being exploited at that price, buddy, and I know what's better for you than you know what's better for you.
You're arguing for the status quo. You're saying, I think it's fine if somebody works full-time and they still don't make enough money to get by.
And you're saying it should be illegal for people to compete.
It's wage slavery, man. Like, that's what...
Wage slavery is an anti-concept.
That is. We could try to, sugarcoat it and dress it up and act like it's not that, but it is that. That's exactly what...
Yeah, and you can sugarcoat your envy and compassion, and I can still see through your bullshit.
But it is. We can't have a system like that, man. We just can't. You know how much she's worth, Kylie Jenner? $1 billion.
Good for Kylie Jenner.
Dog, she's 22 years old. She's worth $1 billion.
See, look how disappointed he is. The fact that this 22-year-old has made lots of money.
These are the people who get their taxes cut. This is, by the way, Donald Trump. We just spoke about this. There was a study that came out the other day. Since Trump's tax bill went into effect, which was just the Bush tax cuts on steroids, the richest 400 families in the country pay 23% in taxes. The poorest...
Now, keep in mind that the current federal tax rate is 37%. So if they manage to pay 24%, there's probably deductions and write-offs that went into that. So, but again, Kyle doesn't really call for reducing write-offs or phasing them out, which I'm actually open to that discussion. He just says, no, we just got to raise their taxes. That's his first thought.
50% of this country, they pay 24%.
Now, this is a bit dishonest because anyone that makes under $38,000 a year pays less than 12% in federal income taxes. Also, when he talks about this, the study that he is citing, which I'm a little skeptical of, but it factors in state and federal taxes, which the marginal rate for someone like Kylie Jenner living in California, it's 50% combined both. So if she only paid, so after that, she apparently only paid 24%, the Kardashians. So they must have had a lot of write-offs and deductions in that process. But also, so anyone who makes under $38,000 a year, they're not paying more than 24% unless they have criminally horrible accountants that somehow made a mistake to where they pay more than 12%. But yeah, anyone that's making under he said the bottom 50% paid 24%. That's just a flat out lie. Again, unless everyone who's under, because after above $38,000, $38,500, then it kicks up to 22%. And that's when people start paying over 22%. And so, yeah, if you combine that with state taxes, for a lot of people who make above $38,000, they might be paying more than 24%. But the bottom of Americans, the people making under $38,000, they're not paying 24%. And if they are, it's probably because of high state taxes, which have nothing to do with the federal taxes. Kyle is being very misleading with this presentation.
The richest 23%, the poorest 24%. The poor now officially pay a higher tax rate than the rich.
Just a flat out lie.
That's a broken system. That's a system.
No, it is a broken system, but again, we should be moving towards capitalism, not toward the communist utopia that Kyle is inching towards.
System that's rigged for the rich and for corporations. That's what that is.
Now, make no mistake, Kyle says, oh, it's rigged in favor of the rich and the corporations. Kyle is all in favor of a rigged economy. He just wants to be the one doing the rigging.
So, listen, I'm not grabbing a pitchfork. I'm not grabbing a gun. I'm not throwing her in the gulag. I'm not confiscating.
I'm so glad he clarified that. I'm not going to throw her into a gulag. Imagine if someone else made a qualifier like this. Imagine if a Christian theocrat said something like, look, I'm not saying we should have an inquisition like the Spanish Inquisition, but I'm just saying maybe going to church should be mandated by law. Or imagine if a Sharia law advocate said something like, look, I'm not saying that I'm in favor of honor killings, but people really should not mock and ridicule the Prophet Muhammad. Yeah, I think, wouldn't you guys be a little alarmed if someone made such a qualifier? Also, if Kylie Jenner's existence and her behavior radicalizes you, then why not have gulags? But it's nice to know that Kyle's a nice enough guy that he stops short at concentration camps.
In her wealth. But I am going to raise her taxes quite a bit. Top marginal tax rate is what, 35% now?
See, he just admitted. It's the marginal tax rate is 35%. Yet the richest families who make over $500,000 a year, they somehow paid 24%. So we got to raise their taxes. But discussing deductions and write-offs, whatever.
There was a time when it was 91%. That doesn't mean the government takes 91% of all of our money, by the way. It doesn't mean that.
Well, ideally, it should be 0%.
It means that over a certain point, they tax at 91%. So every dollar over like $5 million, they tax at 91% in income. But even that wasn't the...
And that makes it so much better.
Effective rate. That was the nominal rate, which is just the rate on paper. The effective rate was about 43%. Do you understand how much good can be done if you just take that top marginal rate from 35% and raise it to 43% again?
Yeah, I'm sure I could do a lot of good, too, with other people's money.
Get rid of the loopholes and deductions? Do you realize how much good can be done? How much revenue can be raised? Do you realize how far a Wall Street transaction tax goes in funding the programs that we know we need? Do you realize how simple it is, how straightforward it is, how easy it is to get Medicare for all, free college, a living wage, ending the wars, right to a union, an infrastructure deal, a Green New Deal. Do you realize how simple it is to raise the funds? All we got to do is stop our illegal and offensive wars, which we wasted trillions of dollars on, and raise taxes on the rich and raise taxes on Wall Street.
So Kyle is simply full of shit here again, because I recently did a video about his anti-concept private tax, where he responds to the fact, Bernie and everyone else who wants Medicare for all, they're getting grilled because they can't really pay for their multi-trillion-dollar programs without raising taxes on everyone. And the Mercatus study says this. The Mercatus study says you're going to have to more than double both individual taxes and corporate income taxes. And so the taxes are going up for everyone, but when it comes to that, Kyle says, "Oh well, it's all fine because what you're paying in health insurance now, that's essentially a private tax. So we're just replacing the private tax with a tax for the government. So you're really not paying more in taxes." But right here, he's trying to make it sound like, oh, if we just raise the taxes on Kylie Jenner, and if we cut the military budget and we posed a Wall Street tax, oh, well, we can just pay for all the goodies. We can just pay for the generous welfare state with these new taxes. He's clearly full of shit.
And bring back a reasonable estate tax. I mean, you want to talk about, it's the Republicans who say all the time, you should have to work for everything you get. Can't get lazy. Can't just be lazy and get handed stuff. That's their argument against welfare. But when it comes to the do-nothing kids of super rich parents, they say, I want them to be able to hand them the $7 billion they have in the bank and have it not be taxed.
So, again, the king of dropping context. There is a huge difference from passing money you've earned, from passing money on to your kids and your grandkids and your family, and forcefully taking money through taxation and just giving it to other people. But that aside, so he's making a big fuss over the estate tax. And Kyle's always saying, oh, I'm a social democrat. I just want whatever the fuck Denmark and Sweden and Norway have. All of those countries have a lower estate tax than the United States. Norway's estate tax is 0%. They don't have an estate tax. And Denmark and Sweden's are lower. I think Canada also has a 0% estate tax. So why doesn't he want to be like the Nordic countries when it comes to estate taxes?
Now you know firsthand that being 6 feet under is not a tax shelter.
If you want a spoiled kid who's done nothing in their entire life, I'm not talking about Kylie Jenner here. I'm talking about just a random, generic, spoiled rich kid who's done nothing in his entire life. If
propping up a straw man. Here we go.
His daddy dies, he just gets that $7 billion, no questions asked. Here's the thought. What if...
Does Kyle want to make it illegal to pass on money to your kids? And again, Bernie Sanders, he bought his, that vacation home you keep hearing about, that third home that Bernie Sanders bought a couple years ago? He bought that with his wife's inheritance money. His wife inherited property. They sold it for $600,000. And then they bought a lakefront house with it in Vermont. With his wife's inheritance money after she bankrupted Burlington College.
If we just let him keep $1 billion, I'm pretty sure he would still never have to work again and he'd be totally fine, but we'd have $6 billion to do really positive, important, good things.
So let's just let him keep $1 billion. Again, this is totally revealing. And it goes back to something I mentioned in my video about the Mercatus study. With how people like Kyle view money. They don't view your money as your money, or my money as my money, or Kylie Jenner's money as Kylie Jenner's money, or LeBron James's money as LeBron James's money, or Charles Koch's money as Charles Koch's money. No, they view all money in society as society's money, and they think that politicians should arbitrarily decide who gets what money. Oh, well, what if we just let them keep $1 billion out of the $7 billion in this hypothetical scenario? Well, that's still not your money to decide what to do with. It's not your money to decide who gets to keep it.
$6 billion. $6 billion. And that's me being kind, saying, let him keep $1 billion. Let him.
Yeah, what a nice guy. He's being kind. He's going to steal 70% of your parents' money after they die, and he's not going to throw you into a gulag if you have too much money. What a nice guy.
Keep $1 billion, but say we're going to take the 6, and we got stuff we got to handle. We got some kids who are starving that we're going to take care of over here.
See, again, so Kyle's making it sound like we live in this Wild West, unfettered, unregulated capitalism with no welfare state. Oh, we're going to take $6 billion and use it to feed kids. The SNAP and WIC programs, the Women, Infants, and Children, and the SNAP program, those both spend over $60 billion a year. So if you took the $6 billion from this heir, that would pay for 10% of that program, which has been around for, I think, decades. He's acting like we already don't have fucking programs to help feed children. Not that it's right, not that I agree with it, but he's acting like we're not already doing this.
Just so you know, there's a couple kids who are starving. We're going to take care of that. I know that you.
And again, he tries to make him sound like such a nice guy, like he's so generous. You're using other people's money, bro.
Want this in order to get your 13th Lamborghini and your second mega yacht. We're going to
see, look, the envy is just oozing out of it.
Pass on that. We're going to feed the kids if you don't mind. Is that okay? Is that okay?
Yes, I do mind.
Okay with you? So the 2 points are, number 1, tax the rich. I'm not an unreasonable dude.
Yes, you are.
We can have a debate. We can have a discussion as to where we draw the line, how much the taxes are, so on and so forth, how much money they get to keep. We can have that discussion.
How much money they get to keep. Again, Kyle's the philosopher king that's going to decide how much money everyone gets to keep.
Okay, that's a reasonable discussion to have. But what's not reasonable is to say, oh, it's good the way it is right now. No, 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 no.
Well, I concur with him there. We should work toward phasing out the regulatory and welfare state.
No. No. And the other point is meritocracy is a myth. We can try to create a system that is more like a meritocracy. I'd agree with that. We should do that. But right now, it's not a meritocracy, and if you think...
So, Kyle's new system that he's proposing, where we just take money from the productive and just arbitrarily decide who gets it, it definitely sounds like a lot less of a meritocracy than what we have now.